What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, continuing my deep dive into UFOs catalog. Today I'm going to discuss Strangers in the Night, their 1979 live album. I recently got into UFO, so it's May of 2025 when I'm filming this. Probably March, February, 2 or 3 months ago is the first time I ever started listening to this band. Been aware of them my entire life. I'm a huge Scorpions fan. Schenker was in the Scorpions for their first album, went to join UFO. Big fan of his early work, but never followed him down this sort of UFO path. But my entire life, the one thing that I have known ever since I've been reading about rock and like subscribed to Rolling Stone as like a preteen, read everything about rock. Huge Deep Purple fan, and anytime hard rock gets discussed, UFO's name is usually tossed into the mix. And the one thing I think it was required by law, if you were a writer of rock journalism, is if you mentioned UFO, you had to mention Strangers in the Night and the fact that it might be the greatest live rock album of all time. Like, that is the one thing I've always known. Oh, UFO. They released what arguably might be the greatest rock album of all time. So I listened to the albums, the 7 albums that preceded this, got used to those, just dropped a video about that. But really liked those. Liked the first 2 albums of the space rock, really liked the sort of mainstream, no frills, just let Schenker cook hard rock energy of their next 5 albums. And then they dropped this one. At the end of the first Schenker era, they released this album. And I listened to it for the first time a couple weeks ago. And now I am currently in this really deep Strangers in the Night live UFO rabbit hole. Because this thing, yeah, it lived up to the hype. It lived up to 46 years of hype as far as I'm concerned. It is just a band that is absolutely cooking. Absolutely cooking. I found out that a number of these shows were recorded. So this was recorded. There were like several shows that were recorded. More on that in a couple minutes or maybe a minute. And some of those shows, the band was touring with Blue Oyster Cult. I'm a huge Blue Oyster Cult fan. The 3 bands I've seen far more than any else in my life: The Dead, Fish, Blue Oyster Cult. And part of the reason I became such a hardcore Blue Oyster Cult fan was their live shows are ridiculous. Like, I've seen Dominance and Submission live, who knows, dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of times. I never got tired of that song. Like, the energy they bring to their live performances. Yeah, that's what I want. I feel like if I had seen UFO as a preteen, back when I saw Blue Oyster Cult, I would have become a hardcore UFO fan. Like, if I was born in the 70s and this was the kind of show I saw, yeah, that's it, man. It's over for me. But the rabbit hole I've gone down, and as much as I absolutely love this album musically, I have some kind of philosophical issues with it that I'm going to get to, because, so I listened to this album, absolutely loved it. Then I discovered that there was a box set of this album, 8 discs, and it was a 2020 remastered version of the album. Sounds fantastic, nice bass presence, just, yeah, crank it up, enjoy it. But the other 6 discs, apart from the original album, were the actual complete live shows that they used to cull the actual track list for Strangers in the Night. And in listening to those shows, one, you realize that, okay, this was a fantastic live band, night after night after night after night. They did not have to listen to 6 mediocre shows, find 13 of the best tracks, and go, okay, those are the tracks we're putting on the live album. No. They could have released any of those shows, and it would have been fantastic. But the thing that, I discovered is the sequencing of the songs on Strangers in the Night does not honor the integrity of the actual shows. And that always bothers me. I think the closer a live album represents what I would actually experience if I went to see the band live, I think that makes live albums better. But in this instance, songs are out of order. Songs that come early in the show are late on the disc. Songs that are late in the show are early in the disc, right? So there's that weirdness. Did it affect my listening experience? Not at all. This album, regardless of the sequencing, is strong. I think that's a testament to the band. But I also think that the set lists they came up with in real time were really good. And I thought had really high peaks early in the set that are here placed late in the set. And so, right, so there's that. Then I also found out that two of the songs on the original release, Mother Mary and This Kids, both which are excellent. This Kids especially, I think, is an improvement upon the studio track, only because they really get to stretch out, they get to jam it out more, it's heavier. But neither one of those are actual live tracks. They're studio performances with crowd noise mixed in to make them feel live. Those two songs were not even performed at any of the shows from which they called all of these performances. So, I mean, were they trying to trick us? Did they fake it? I know that this information is in the liner notes for the box set, but is it in the liner notes of the original album? So there's that. And I have to penalize the band for that. I got to be like, no, you can't do that. Why don't you include two of the other songs that you didn't include in the performance? Why did you just include those? Though these performances are really good. But anyways, those are my little quibbles. It's just like, honor the integrity of your shows because your shows are really good. I have 6 of them. They're all fantastic. Sound quality is they're not remastered. They're not as awesome sounding, but they're no way bad sounding. And then also don't try to trick us with like telling us something is live when it's a studio recording. But apart from that, this is absolutely, absolutely amazing. I am going to hyper focus on the differences in the set list because I do find that absolutely fascinating. So as I go song by song, if you don't care about where they originally occurred in the original show, you might want to just head now and know that this was worth the wait. And this is absolutely an incredible live album. The live album opens up with Natural Thing, which usually dropped somewhere towards like the end of the first set. The first half, they didn't do sets, they had one big set. But usually, it was usually around a 13, 14 song set. It was usually around 6 or 7 that Natural Thing dropped. Awesome opener, awesome riff. It works as an opening on this album. But to have it drop in the middle of a show, you're like, yeah! You're just like, the really great bands have lots of peaks. You can tell their ability to sort of rearrange these songs to make a great album shows the strength of their live material. Out in the Street is next. And Out in the Street, usually, I think, always followed Natural Thing. And this seems like it might be a produced segue, but it looks like when Natural Things ends, we get the actual Out in the Street that followed it from whatever show it was. But these two were usually paired. The contrast between the two is great. The high energy riffage of Natural Thing feeds really into the more dynamic sort of, not experimental, but like, they're doing a little bit more, and there's these dynamics and highs and lows of Out in the Street. Excellent pairing. Only You Can Rock Me follows, which this was usually the sequence in the middle of a UFO show. Natural Thing, Out in the Street, Only You Can Rock Me. So they're honoring sort of the integrity of that. And this is the opening song on Obsession, which I think is my favorite album. It works better here in the middle of the set. I just think it's a little bit of a poppier, more like, it's hooky and it's catchy. It doesn't quite have the muscles as some of the other stuff on Obsession, but I think it works really well here, following the sort of Natural Thing, and then we get the more like dynamic sort of songwriting muscle flex of Out in the Street. And then Only You Could Rock Me just has like a pure melodic rock energy. And then Doctor Doctor is next. This would usually follow a couple songs after Only You Can Rock Me, so they've kind of eliminated those songs between there for now. On the album, it's a perfect 4th song. That spacey intro into the big drop and the galloping groove, perfect. And that's side A, or so you got to think that when they put these songs together, they were thinking vinyl. It's 1979. It's a really good sequence of songs. After this, we get the 2 studio tracks, Mother Mary and This Kids. They work within the flow of the album. They're great performances. But I do feel a little like, come on, man, don't do this to us. But the closing jam on This Kids, absolutely sick, absolutely sick. And then we get Love to Love, which I think just completely annihilates the studio version of this. Like, this usually came, I think this was almost always the fifth song of the set, which is an early peak, because this is a centerpiece of any show. It is an absolute beast of a performance. The closing Shanker solo is just like a monster. The nice spacey piano opening works, the proggy sort of almost mid-period Who vibe, just the energy they bring to sort of every transition and every part of this. Like, if you like the studio version of this, like, this thing is just going to blow your mind. It is an absolutely monster performance of Love to Love. And it's interesting because Love to Love, if you're going to, in the actual show, and this makes the first half of this album, whether you're listening to it on CD or you have the vinyl, almost like this weird loop, because in real time, after Love to Love, they play Natural Thing, Out in the Street, and Only You Can Rock Me, which are the first three songs on side A. So if you get to Love, you can then repeat it and you get a sense of what the actual show is like. And then you end up at the studio tracks and you go back to Love. And so it's this weird existential musical loop. I don't know what that means, but I'm fascinated by things like that. So then on the second disc, the second slab of vinyl, you get Lights Out, which is just monstrous. Might be their best song. That huge pre-Iron Maiden gallop that this song has is just an absolute beast. Absolutely fantastic. Lights Out Chicago, yeah! They all scream. Absolutely fantastic. Huge, confident. This band knows they have a winner. And then that goes right into Rock Bottom, which is just, yeah, whatever. Okay, bow down. If I was a UFO fan, this is that centerpiece song where you're like, yeah, I'm looking forward to Rock Bottom at every show I see them. It's just got that huge riff. It's got that great groove. We drop into that super tasty, chill, funky, where just Shanker goes off and it's super tight. And it's just like, yeah, that middle jam in Rock Bottom is just like epic, epic, epic. And this is the centerpiece. And usually this opens up the second CD in real time. Lights Out, Rock Bottom were always played back to back, and were usually there were either Lights Out and then 3 more songs, or Lights Out and then 2 more songs, with Rock Bottom always following. So it's interesting they mix that up. After that, we get Too Hot to Handle, which almost always followed Rock Bottom. I think it closed once where it was Lights Out, then Rock Bottom, then Too Hot to Handle. There was one point they just randomly dropped it in the middle of the show, which was interesting. This song needs to go way earlier. It is a really weird song to follow Rock Bottom, because Rock Bottom is such an epic extended jam. We're talking 10, 11, in one of the performances, like close to 14 minutes. But Too Hot to Handle is such a concisely under control, well-played song. Yeah, the closing solo is pretty sick, but it just feels like an early set song. It feels like it belongs earlier in the show. And so there is some integrity that it's on the second disc and all that stuff. But oddly enough, I feel like even in the actual live shows, it needs to come earlier. It's just doesn't have a closing show vibe to it. Then we get I'm a Loser, which was only played 3 times out of the 6 shows that they recorded. It was recorded one time when Too Hot to Handle was in the middle of the set. It followed Too Hot to Handle. The other times it was right before Lights Out, and then we would go into Lights Out. One of those slow down moments. It really works before Lights Out, because you get that sort of, we're going to calm it down. We got a little bit of ballad energy. We got those weird, interesting little piano proggy segments. And then we're going into our big muscle songs. So the placement in the shows works, but it also kind of works here. Then we get Let It Roll, which is just a beast of a song. Here it's the second to last song. In the actual shows, it was the 4th song of every show. Super heavy, kind of funky, super aggressive. We get that downshift and that absolutely beautiful sort of mid-song jam. Oh, just, and then we get the kinetic, frantic finish. Just a monster of a song. And this is what I'm talking about. We're like the really, really good bands. You have these absolutely epic songs that pop out throughout your sets. This was the fourth song. You would have got three pretty good songs. I'll talk about what those were because none of those are on here. And then you have this, and you're just like exhausted after this. And then after that, they go into what? They go into Love to Love after this, and then you just get this epic performance, and then you get Natural Thing. Like the middle portion of this set is just mind-blowingly fantastic. And then you close out with Shoot Shoot. Closed, it was played 5 times. It was the closer every time. It has that real like, I just got one more thing to say. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's just jam out. That sort of mid-tempo controlled rock vibe. Awesome closer. Like doesn't really blow the roof off it, but like you've already blown the roof off it in rock bottom. So now you're just going to kind of like, yeah, let's focus our energy and end together strong. Yeah, this is just a fantastic, fantastic show. In the 6 shows that are in that box set that were recorded and released, 5 of the songs were not released. Every show opened up with Hot and Ready, Pack It Up, Cherry. None of those are on Strangers in the Night. Interesting choice. And then they played Ain't No Baby twice. They played On With the Action 4 times. Those are not included on the original album. But yeah. So my little complaints, 2 of the songs are not really live, but nonetheless, they deliver great performances. The sequencing is not what the live shows are, but who cares? We now have 6 of the live shows, and so we get to experience that. And like, yeah, I've gone full UFO rabbit hole right here. Making my way through the 80s and the 90s, the second Schenker era, getting to Vinnie Moore there. So continuing on through, but this 70s UFO and what they did and all of it culminating in this live album. Yeah, man, I wish I had found this band earlier. They are pretty good. And I do think this album, I think it deserves the hype. I mean, if you're not a UFO fan and you don't like UFO, yeah, whatever. But if you like UFO and you listen to those first Schenker albums and they're like, oh, there's a live album, you're like, oh my goodness, this is fantastic. This is fantastic. If you haven't heard it, you gotta check it out. It's hard rock at its best. And that's all I got. That's all I'm gonna say. All right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment. Let me your thoughts on this album, your experience of this album. If you haven't yet, check it out. Go check it out and let me know what you think. Because, yeah, it's some good stuff, people. It's some really good stuff. All right. That's all I got. Peace. Talk to you later.